Oh, here comes a sick one.
Ronnie and Paul breaking things down. We're all washed up on the whole down.
Yes, welcome to another episode of The Hold Down, where we explore the big moments in the sport, the moments that matter, and also break down some of the big careers of the sport's hugest names. We've got another special show for you today. I'm your host, Ronnie Blakey. My co-host is a man with 25 years in the game as a surf journalist, also rocking the filthiest hair lip this side of the equator. Good to see you, Vaughan Blakey.
Okie dokie doodly, let's do this, Ron Doggy.
We've got another special program for you today. We're going to be running through the big moments of one of the most important surf events in the history of the world, the most important sporting events in the history of the world, the Billabong Pipe Masters, in loving memory of Andy Irons.
To me, nothing is better than the Pipeline Masters. So ever since I was a little kid and before surfing was on TV, I used to listen to the hourly updates of the Pipe Masters heats on the wireless. That's how old I am, dog. But that's how much it mattered to me. I would seriously freak out on this event so hard because it is our equivalent of, Wimbledon, the Masters, you name it. If sport has a comp that sits atop all the others, the Pipeline Masters is that for surfing.
Yeah, we love it. It's always so fun. The wave itself is so treacherous. What is it about pipe that just makes it so scary?
Well, it's a killer. It's a deadly, deadly wave. People have lost their lives out there and the repercussions are extremely real if you don't do it right. So, first of all, that's hanging over you before you even paddle out. Secondly, the history of the joint. Mate, when Jeff Hackman won that first comp there way back in the day, no one could have known just how important a win at the Pipe Masters was going to be. And a couple of little interesting facts about that, just while we're talking about the first ever Pipe Masters. Jerry Lopez wasn't invited. 6 surfers were invited. Jerry wasn't there. What's up there, history?
I thought the story went, Jerry was invited, but then one of the other competitors told him that they'd postpone the event because the waves were too small, so Jerry missed the opportunity to win the inaugural event. Of course, he did come back and was victorious there and is still regarded as one of the greats.
He said the best quote ever about surfing Pipeline. It's a cakewalk when you know how. And I think he's the only bloke who's ever considered it a cakewalk.
Yeah, that's probably true. But we don't have a lot of time here, so let's rip in. This is our number 5 on the big moments at the Billabong Pipe Masters. 5! Kieran Para coming in at number 5 because long before KP was the commissioner on the World Surf League, making the call whether the event should get underway, making all the big decisions, he was actually battling away on the championship tour, looking for a breakthrough victory. And in 2010, he cracked the final of the Pipe Masters and everybody thought, hallelujah, this guy that's been on the North Shore year in, year out, throwing himself into the more of the thickest waves, he's finally going to get that victory.
He did it the hard way too, mate. He had spent years sitting it off the wall and backdoor, just pulling into closeouts when he had no place in the pecking order. Eventually climbed the tree, got into that final against Jeremy Flores, had it on lock. It was his. He had it. All he had to do was just block Jeremy off one more wave. I think it was like 10 seconds to go, something ridiculous like that. And he let him get the wave. No one could believe it. Nobody. Everyone was shedding tears. I lost litres of body fluid out of these eyes.
I was there.
Yeah, of course you were.
I was there. I was actually watching it all unfold. There was 3 minutes to go. 3 minutes. Kieran Para had priority. Jeremy Flores needed an 8.6, I believe. And everyone was going, oh, Kieran's wrapped it up. He's going to be Pipe Master. He's going to get his first event win and he's going to be a Pipe Master. He'll be remembered forever.
And he won. A set came. Kieran took the first wave. Little hopeless closeout. Jeremy gets the second wave of the set. 9-point ride. He snatched the Pipe Masters. Kieran is Devo. And so is everyone in Australia, just quietly.
But the European obviously snagging the first win for them, so that was a pretty big deal for him. But Kieran told me that he didn't sleep for a whole year. He couldn't sleep. He knew that he let the most prestigious event title in surfing slip through his fingers with one bad call.
Kizza, mate, you broke us. You broke all our hearts, man. Not just your own. You broke all of us. Thankfully, the next year, doggy, sweet karma came back and rescued him.
Well, he fought hard for it, didn't he? He returned the following season. Really tough run through the event. Ended up taking Joel Parkinson on in the final, and this time he made no mistakes about it. But it was one of the great comeback victories. Only had one event win in his championship tour career, which spanned a decade or more. And yeah, finally broke through and got that victory.
And wasn't that a relief for everyone? And just watching his face as he gets cheered up the beach and the crowd all around him, and he's just holding his hand and he's looking to the sky. And honestly, just thinking about it now gives you goosebumps, because every moment, every sport has that feel-good story, you know? And it's not always about the guys who win world titles and those giant climaxes. Sometimes, every now and again, a guy like KP, a guy so deserving, gets that moment of glory, and it's something everyone can celebrate with him.
They're special moments to look back on in the Billabong Pipe Masters, because with all that history, the event approaching its 50th anniversary, there has been some incredible achievements and some really amazing victories. But we kind of wanted to keep it sort of current. So we're sort of reflecting more so on the last 20 years. There's so many great stories in this event. I can't wait to see what comes in next on our list of big moments from the Billabong Pipe Masters in loving memory of Andy Irons. We'll be back with more on the Hold Down right after this.
We're all washed up on the hold down.
Welcome back to the Hold Down. Great to have your company as we walk through the best moments from the recent years of the Billabong Pipe Masters. Before the break, we had a look at the ecstasy that comes with a big victory, thanks to Kieran Para, but now we're going to get into the gnarly stuff. This is our number 4.
2015 saw a couple of the most devastating wipeouts we've seen in recent memory, with Owen Wright and Bede Durbidge both suffering career-threatening injuries, and not just career-threatening, life-threatening, because both guys had had stellar careers. We'd seen so much. Owen was in the world title race, and mate, both guys ended up, you know, suffering quite heavily and being out of the water for quite a long time after these wipeouts.
Owen, in the lead up to the contest kicking off, had the best free surfing performances out of anyone. He actually rode the best wave of his life at Pipe just before the contest was meant to kick off.
That's right, mate. Everyone was talking about Owen's performances out there, and unfortunately he just ducked off a wave, got in a bad position, rattled around, came back in, and that night started feeling a bit iffy, and pretty soon he was on his way to hospital with a brain injury, which we still don't know a whole lot about, because brain injuries are just of that nature. But it just goes to show you the force of that wave, mate. When it tosses you around, it can really do some damage. But the other big wipeout from 2015 was Bede Durbidge, and man, this was brutal. Over the falls, I think he lost his fins as he sort of took off, got pounded into the reef and just pulverised his pelvis to basically 2 pieces.
Bede, I don't think anyone saw him coming back from that one.
Bede just shown that typical grit that he has shown throughout his entire career. Grit that saw him win a Pipe Masters, that saw him finish runner-up to the world title race in 2005. Got down, put his head down, started ripping in and training, and came back and, mate, put in one of the great returns we've seen in pro surfing history.
Great to see Owen and Bede make a full recovery. Bede had a fantastic 2017. Owen, it's 2018. He's still at the top end of the leaderboard, so absolutely ruling there. Let's dive back into the real positive stuff. 2014 was one for the ages, an epic final, and it is our number 3. Julian Wilson and Gabriel Medina in the final of 2014 was something special. There's been a short supply of great rivalries on the championship tour since Kelly Slater and Andy Irons, but these guys together live up to the hype.
Mate, 5 finals they've surfed against each other, and they have managed to crush the other guys' dreams every single time. Every one of those finals we're on has come down to the last second, a last-ditch wave. Right when the other guy thought he had it, snatch goes either Jules or Gabby, crushes the dreams of each other. But this was a beauty.
It really was one of the best. We had great waves. It was a big day for professional surfing. In fact, Gabriel Medina had just won Brazil's first world title, and then Julian Wilson had the most horror year in his competitive career. He was way down the back end of the ratings. He had saved himself on the qualifying series, but he needed to do something pretty special in the final event to elevate his position on the rankings, and he also had a shot at a Triple Crown title, but he needed to win the event to claim that honour.
Wow. Well, I mean, Triple Crown, if you're having a shocker on the CT, the Triple Crown that's what you're going for, because that is as good as a world title in a lot of people's eyes. The final was incredible. It was actually pumping waves, not huge pipeline, but really square, nuggety backdoor, and then long running lefts. Really nice, funneling, juicy, long running lefts. So quite different waves, and the guys pretty much stuck to their favoured, stance out there. So Julian was sticking to the rights, Gabby was sticking to the lefts, and it was just neck and neck.
Yeah, Julian posted an excellent score early on. He kicked off the final with a 9-point ride, and everyone was just thinking, oh, he's going to run away with it. But then Medina, he got himself a wave at backdoor as well, and he dropped a 10, and it's really rare for goofy footers to get those 10-point rides at backdoor. It just shows how good he is out there.
So true. I mean, you rarely see the goofs hit the back door. It just must be one of those waves on your backhand that is really hard to find an exit on, because if you've got a doggy door that end section, as we've said before, it gets so shallow, you are really taking your life into your hands if you want to try and sneak out that doggy door. And a lot of goofies just don't want to do it. And I think also it's a hard wave to actually get moving on if you're too deep or something, you know? Like it's a much more bowled out inside. You can't get up on the face to find that speed. And so you're really just stuck in mid-air and hoping for the best once you set your line. Gabby getting a 10 on his backhand, that's just too good out there. It really did set up that epic climax though, didn't it?
It sure did. Medina also posted another excellent score in the 8-point range at pipe. Beautiful barrel there, and that left with about 18 minutes to go. Julian chasing, I think, a low-scoring 8. So an 8.06, I think, is what he was after. And in the final stages, he was desperate. He actually broke a board, got back out there, and then with a couple of minutes to go, Medina had priority. He had eyes on the second wave in the set. Julian swung on the first, and it was a bomb.
Oh, it was a nooja. It was so nuggety, and Jules just comes flying out with the spit, and the claim was just monumental.
That was with less than 2 minutes remaining. And then with a minute and a half to go, Medina paddles into the second wave in the set. It's a left. He gets piped, he comes out, the crowd already in celebration mode for his world title completely erupts, and then both competitors are left standing on the sand. Medina's already being chaired to the stage by the crowd, who's completely lost it at this point, and Julian's just waiting to hear that number drop.
Julian had done enough, and it really put a bit of a pin in the balloon of Gabe's celebrations. He had the world title, he thought he was going to get that pipe trophy. We've seen that happen so many times with the greats. Not to be for Gab Medina.
No, and it was a huge moment for Julian Wilson. He just threw his board up, collapsed on the sand. It was a bucket of tears, but of course he was. He won the Triple Crown, won the Pipe Masters, elevated himself on the rankings and set himself up well for a big year in 2015. Anything to add?
None. Nothing.
We'll go to a break, and when we return, we'll unveil what's number 2 on the list here on the Hold Down, the Billabong Pipe Masters special.
We're all washed up on the whole game.
Welcome back to the Hold Down. I'm Ronnie, this is Vaughn. We're breaking down the big moments from the Billabong Pipe Masters. Just moments ago, we were talking about a fantastic rivalry with Gabriel Medina and Julian Wilson duking it out in the 2014, but the rivalry in 2003 between Andy Irons and Kelly Slater turned nuclear, and it is our number 2.
This really is as good as it gets in surfing. Kelly versus Andy. It is the story that we all know. The entire world knows it, even if they don't surf. Even your grandma knows it. Kelly versus Andy was the most heated rivalry we have ever seen. 2003 was the year on where it all came to a head at the Pipe Masters. Kelly versus Andy. It had all been brewing for so long. Andy was the defending world champ. Kelly was on the way back big time. He'd already had a year back on tour, but this was where it was all blowing up. And can you believe it? It comes down to the last heat of the year.
It was amazing. Just the lead up to this showdown was huge. You had the media absolutely selling it. As fans, we were eating up everything the media was putting out there.
This was the heavyweight battle that surfing had been waiting so long for, because we had Kelly Slater, a decade of almost being unbeatable, and in his absence, when he took a little break from the tour, Andy came along, took the reins, owned it harder than we've seen anyone own it other than Kelly. And when Kelly returned, Andy was not willing to give up that world title trophy. He was like, nah, if you want it, you got to come and tear it off me. And so the stage was set. Who are you going to go for, the Hawaiian or the GOAT? Who was it going to be? Everyone wanted to see what was going to happen.
Yeah, it was a big test for the greatest of all time. Pipe had always been his domain. He'd claimed world titles there before, but something just felt a little different. He was trying to get inside the mind of Andy Irons. It wasn't really working. He even suggested feelings of love before the final.
He walked down the beach just as they're about to paddle out. They're in their singlets, world title on the line, Pipe Masters on the line, and said, "Hey man, I love you." And Andy just he wasn't having that. What happened?
Well, he went out there and he won the Pipe Masters. He won the world title. And it was just unbelievable just watching it all unfold.
Kelly was the best surfer in the world. He still is the ultimate surfer. But everyone folds to him because they think that they can't beat a superhero. But he's, he bleeds just like everyone. And that was the thing. I was like, I know he bleeds. I can get him. I can cut him. You know what? This guy, he's my hero. Yeah, I got posters on my wall. Yeah. But you know what? Today, somehow I'm going to be the guy that's going to get the better wave than him. And if the best surfer in the world doesn't catch a good wave, he's not going to beat the half-decent surfer in the world. So that's what was kind of my driving force. And I used that in the back of my head throughout all those years. And I think that's what worked for me.
It was all Andy, and he just lifted that trophy, screamed to the heavens. And of course, if you've seen the classic Jack McCoy film, Blue Horizon, you saw Kelly wander up and let go of all that emotion in the shower up in someone's front yard. Don't know who, but it was heavy.
Mate, it really is one of the great moments in the history of the event, maybe the greatest showdown. So why isn't that our number one?
Even though the greatest rivalry of all time went down that wonderful day, it's not our number one. We've got to have Firing Pipe for number one, Ronnie.
Well, let's find out what it is. Stay with us after the break. We'll unveil our number one on the hold down for the Billabong Pipe Masters.
Oh, here comes a sick one.
Ronnie and Paul breaking things down. We're all washed up on the whole down.
Welcome back to the show. This is the hold down, and we're about to unveil our number one in our list of great moments at the Billabong Pipe Masters in loving memory of Andy Irons. What do you reckon? Should we rip in?
Let's do it.
Here it is, number one. 2013, Slater loses but wins. And it was a big one for Kelly because he was right in that world title race, the final event. He would have backed his chances. He was up against Mick Fanning, but Mick Fanning had already snatched his third world title. And Kelly was left to just chase a seventh Pipe Masters victory. What a show he put in.
Oh, he did. And like you say, Ron, it would have been hard to take because Mick had not really put in a huge performance at Pipeline. He'd had some great waves out there over the years, but he put in a really measured performance, got right through, did enough to seal the world title. Kelly was left stung because he never really got a bite at the cherry. He wanted to surf against Mick so bad towards the end, but the chance had slipped through his fingers. So what did he do? He set his laser sights on that Pipe Masters trophy, and he made all the way to the final up against the guy who is most likely to claim that throne as the GOAT from Kelly. If anyone's going to do it, John Florence.
Yeah, what a matchup that was. To see those two guys on either side of the draw, even after Kelly had lost that world title, it was amazing watching him in post-heat interviews. You could see the pain. Oh, you could feel it deep down. But he smiled his way through those interviews, threw a couple of chuckles our way, and like you said, set that laser focus on the Pipe Masters title, and you couldn't ask for a better matchup.
I honestly thought it was going to be John taking the baton off Kelly. I think because the surf had been pumping so much and because Kelly had suffered a couple of defeats and he was I know he was due for a win, but the entire island, when there's a Hawaiian in the final of the Pipe Masters, everyone on that island is behind them. And so you get caught up in that energy. John, he hasn't won a Pipe Masters. That's a crazy thing that you forget about him. Everyone wanted to see it that day and everyone wanted to see it against the greatest of all time.
Wasn't to be though.
It wasn't.
Kelly Slater turned it on big time, and he really schooled John in that final. One wave in particular, the highest scoring ride of the final, it's just seared in my mind. Actually, I was there, and it was huge just watching it live.
Leg drop, pulling in, square barrel spin, and Kelly Slater's on.
It was such a critical drop, one of the thickest pipe waves that we've seen in the event in a few years. Kelly just always seems to be so perfectly placed. He actually grabbed the rail, his board disengaged for a moment. The wave was so cupped out and hollow that he disconnected from the water, found that rail again, just engaged at the perfect time to rip that rail back up under the lip and got himself so piped, spat into the channel. And, you know, I think it took the sting out of losing that world title, claiming a 7th Pipe Masters. Definitely one of my favourite moments in recent times.
Like, yeah, there's so many moments. Every single heat at Pipe has the potential to deliver something special, and that's why we keep going back.
Well, that's been a lot of fun, running through the big moments from the Billabong Pipe Masters. Hope you enjoyed our list. We love bringing it to you. That's all for the Hold Down this week. Make sure you tune in next week as we break down more big moments from the sport of surfing.